All right, so I've seen a lot of videos about people just going through their record collections, and as I've been taking it a little more seriously recently, I thought it would be fun to sort of go through mine, give me an excuse to talk about some of the stuff that I spend too much money on. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Real quick, I do want to say that a lot of this record collection sort of comes from records I've inherited from my dad, so I can go over that a little bit more in detail, but these aren't all just records that I bought. So there's going to be a lot of them that are pretty beat up older copies of records that aren't in great condition, but my dad had them laying around in a box, so I cleaned them up the best I could, and I have them here. So I'm going to get started. They're mostly in alphabetical order. I have soundtracks for movies and video games and stuff down here. I have some box sets down here. But these first three sort of cubes here are mostly alphabetical order. I think some people do different alphabetical than me. I went by like first letter, which is most people, if it's like an artist name, if it's like Bruce Springsteen, they put it in S rather than B. I didn't do that, so anyway, let's get started. A lot of these I'm not going to end up taking them out of their sleeves for because they're just there's not much to show. Well, okay, cool. Um, So this is Aether Viraha, I believe is how you would pronounce it. I have a couple of these records from Fent Plates. They're like a UK-based sort of ambient future garage, chill electronic music sort of label that did a lot of releases in like the 2016 time period. They're very cheap. Like the sleeves are pretty bad. The records are nice and thin. But all things considered, these were some of my favorite projects to listen to at the time. So pull this out here real quick. This is just a clear pressing. I have a lot of the sleeves, the inner sleeves replaced. Not all of them, but a good number of them, particularly with the collection I inherited from my dad, because a lot of those like paper sleeves have just been like falling apart. So trying to clean them without doing something about those inner sleeves was kind of pointless. Speaking of my dad's collection, Aldo Nova, Twitch. This is one of those just, mid 80s rock records that's a little goofy in retrospect. I have listened to some of these songs, but a lot of the records on my dad's collection I haven't listened to, so I won't be able to talk to a ton. Either they're just in really, really bad condition, or I just haven't gotten around to it. So this is one of those examples. I've listened to a couple songs here. Let's see. I think I listened to Heartless, Twitch. I think I listened to the title track. So I've listened to a couple of tracks on here, but it's not really my thing. So this is a cool like best of jazz album by Al Hurt. So this is just a collection of some of his best songs. This is a record I got from my dad. It's not in great condition, so I want to listen to sort of like a digital version of this. I think from my memory, the quality of the actual record is pretty rough. It's kind of beat up. I think it might be like almost cracked in some places, but I definitely want to get more into jazz, and that's one of the few like jazzier records in his collection. So, Amber Run. For a moment, I was lost. Right? Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the earlier records I bought. 2017, prior to going off to college. Amber Run. I really liked their first record, and when they were putting this out, I was kind of excited about it. I got a signed copy online for not too expensive, and it's really cool. I'm glad I have this. I don't think I have any sort of, I don't think there's any sort of special pressing or anything here. I also didn't replace the inner sleeve. It's just got a bunch of, I believe these are lyrics? Yeah, lyrics, and just a black vinyl. But yeah, I really ended up liking this record. Some of the singles off of it, like Fickle Game, I thought were pretty good. No Answers I really liked. And then songs like Insomniac off the record when it came out, all great. Love them. Next, Animals as Leaders. Jinty, progressive metal, crazy time signatures, really technical playing. This is their live 2017 album. I don't have any of their other records. I got into them probably 2016, I want to say. And so I went to go see this tour live. So Brain Dance off of this live LP was recorded in Dallas where I saw them. So this is a 2-disc. It's not a gatefold, so I have these the splatter, this particular splatter, which is, what is it? Okay, this is the Coke bottle black splatter. It looks nice. I would have liked if the color of the base record, that sort of green, was a little more blue like the record, but it still looks good. This is the only Animals as Leaders I have right now. I would like to get more in the future, but this live album is just a bunch of really good songs of theirs, sort of in one package, for a tour that I went to go see with a recording that I was there for, so I went ahead and picked that up. Asia. So this is self-titled by Asia. Asia's a band I want to get into more. My dad has 3 Asia records in his collection. They're all in relatively rough condition, but man, the album artwork on these is really crazy. And so this is a band I definitely want to get more into. All these are like Geffen records from, I want to say, the early to, yeah, it's like early 80s. Let me double check that. Yeah, 82 to 85. So I want to get more into Asia. I know they have a pretty big cult following, and so I definitely want to listen to more of these in the future. The other 2 Asia records, there is Alpha here, and this is Astra. So these records are not in great condition, but they're in, I think, slightly above average condition for his collection. I think it looks like the Astra copy might be decent from what I wrote down, like listenable. Some of the conditions are really rough because, my dad wasn't a record collector; he was a music listener, and so in the late '70s, early '80s, this is how he would listen to music when he was growing up. So I have a couple records in here that were just records I picked up at like a Goodwill or a flea market or something, and I just saw that they were so funny and like the quality, the condition be damned. I just had to get it. So this is the Banjo Barons Dueling Banjos. It's in really tough condition. I could pull it out and show you, but it is playable. But it's just such a funny record that I absolutely love. I always show it to people when they ask for a funny record that I have. So big fan of that one. It was a Goodwill find back when I started college. All right. The only Beatles I have is a sort of collection album. So Beatles 1967 through 1970. It's a collection of a bunch of their more popular songs. So this is in pretty tough condition. The sleeve is so damaged that when I went through and cleaned the discs, I was like, you know what, this is going to sit on the outside. So I do this sometimes with colored pressings and things so I can show them off more easily, but in this particular case, the sleeves are so close to falling apart. My dad has a sleeve of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band that's in really tough condition, and no discs for that, they're just gone. So this is the only Beatles I have right now. I wouldn't be opposed to getting more Beatles in the future. I like the Beatles, but they are one of those bands that are so hot, and you're going to pay a lot of money for them most often. So I'm waiting to find something that really appeals to me to get more Beatles in the collection. All right, so we got some Mr. Bill. Mr. Bill is like an electronic dance music artist who does very technical. I think of him a little bit like I would think of Animals as Leaders in metal. Like, it's a little out there, it's a little crazy, it's a little experimental, but I really love his music. This is a collaborative project he did with AU5. Pull out the discs here. This isn't a gatefold, but these were crowdfunded records. I think they were like 200 something made. And I went ahead and got them. So this is the Recency Effect, and the way this works is it's sort of 2 5-track EPs. The first is the songs that AU5 and Mr. Bill put together, and the second half are sort of reworkings of the songs by a bunch of different artists. So this is a really cool one. It's really tough to get. When I look for like pricing on this, it's pretty up there because not a lot of these were made, and from what I understand, I think it's through like Q rates. But the shipping did not always go as planned. So there were a couple angry customers who didn't get their record. I was lucky enough to get mine. So continuing more Mr. Bill, this is Apophenia. This is my favorite project of his. This was done through Digger's Foundry. I want to say it's Factory. It is Factory. Yeah. So I got this through Digger's Factory. It's another one of those single sleeve 2 LPs. So just black vinyl, some cool designs on the center. But this is my personal favorite Mr. Bill project, and not a lot of these were pressed. They were pretty expensive as well. I want to say I paid like $55, $60 to get this shipped to the US, all said and done. But I got it. It's my favorite album from his, and I listen to it pretty often. Okay. The first gatefold on the list. This is another Mr. Bill, my last Mr. Bill, Phantasmagoria. So I love this gatefold art design. It is super, super cool. I have these gatefold sleeves that I got off Amazon. They work pretty well. I'm pretty happy with them. They slide in nicely to the collection. You know, a lot of the times when you have the sleeves open like this on the side, will sort of catch as you try and put it into the record collection. So people will put the opening of the sleeves on the top. That's what I found as I got more and more of these things. But these hold up pretty well. They allow me to get access to the disc, and I can sort of look at the gatefold and admire it easily without having to go and take it out of the sleeve every time I want to listen to it. So this is a really good record. It's not as good as Apophenia in my humble opinion, but I still really like it. It's a lot more aggressive sort of bass music. There's a lot of cool collaborations on this with other artists. There was less of that on Apophenia. Apophenia was more just it felt like him exploring his sound and possibilities with it a lot more, a little bit more creative to me, but this is definitely a heavier record, and I think this has gone somewhat viral, so I think this is kind of a tough one to get. It's also through Digger's Factory. Also spent a lot of money getting it here, and it took a long time. I want to say it took like 7 months to come in. Big Thief Capacity. So let me go ahead and grab this out. There's some hype stickers that I clipped. What I like to do, if I can, is if the hype sticker comes off cleanly, I like to just slap it on the sleeve, but that's not the case here, so I cut them out. This is my personal favorite Big Thief album. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of like inserts in here. I forgot about that. But this is another gatefold, but this is a 1 LP, so a bunch of artist information and lyrics and everything here. And this is a reminder that I need to switch out the record sleeve. So let me do that real quick. But yeah, this is a really cool color pressing Turntable Labs, I believe. It was a little more expensive than I would have liked for a 1 LP, but good record. I really love this. Shark Smile was like one of my most listened to songs like a year or so ago. And this record is just a lot of fun to listen to for me. It's right up my alley for that sort of alternative rock style. So Billy Joel. So this is, I believe I have 2 Billy Joel records in this collection. So I've listened to this record before, but this is, one of the ones I inherited from my dad. So the quality leaves a little bit to be desired. I think this one in particular, the sleeve is broken at the top, and then the record is just beat to crap. So it's a little tough to listen to. But it's Billy Joel, Can you go wrong with that? Just having it around is sort of my take with all the records that I inherited from my dad. Having them around is nice. Part of the reason I like vinyl records so much is it's a big art display, essentially, of the art that accompanies the music. So it's just cool to have something physical to represent the music that you love and enjoy. So even if I can't listen to that necessarily, it's still nice to have. Bryan Adams. I think this is the only Bryan Adams he has in his collection. Yeah, it's just this. But I think this one's also really beat up. No, actually, this one is, I've reported that is in relatively good condition, all things considered. So the sleeve has some obvious damage to it. But, the record is passable. So, I'll have to throw that one on. I had a little less than half of my dad's collection for a few years now. I've just sort of been I took it to college with me when I got my apartment there and everything, and sort of had them on display. A part of his collection, because his whole collection is like over 100 records, so it was a little bit much for me at the time. So this is one of the ones I picked up very recently when I grabbed the rest of his collection. They're cleaning up their house, so I'm helping them out, I promise. Burial, Anti-Dawn. This is my only Burial record. And for an artist that's so influential to me, or so impactful, I guess, in my music listening tastes, it's a shame I only have Anti-Dawn. I got this for real cheap, though. It was on sale for I want to say $13. So I was like, yeah, I'm getting this. But, I'm planning on getting a lot of his singles, his smaller EPs, Untrue, obviously, at some point. So I want to get more Burial, but this is all I have for the time being. Okay, the Cars. So this is Shake It Up from the Cars. This one is in rough condition from what I remember looking at. Also, this just goes to show you my alphabetizing is a little off. But, I have 2 Cars records. This one's in a bit of a tough state. It's not the most listenable. This one's in pretty good condition. This is Heartbeat City. This is one of those vertical gatefolds. So if I'm careful as to not mess anything up, wonk. So pretty good. The sleeve condition is really, really good, and the actual record itself is in usable condition. So I'm definitely gonna throw this one on the table soon. Give it a listen. All right, and I believe this should go before. I don't know. Discogs puts this before the Cars alphabetically, but this is Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion. It's my favorite Carly project so far. I have her new project pre-ordered. I really like Carly Rae Jepsen. Everybody had some fun, oh, Call Me Maybe, ha ha ha. And I was pretty young when that album and that song came out, so I was like, oh, it's catchy, but it's kind of dumb. But I think especially with Emotion, I really came to appreciate the quality of Carly Rae Jepsen's pop music. And it's just it's a 5th anniversary pressing of Emotion. I don't love the color of this or anything, but I got it because I love this album, so I went and picked it up. Okay, so the Charlie Daniels Band. I remember my dad talking a good bit about this band, but it's never something I've listened to, so at some point I should definitely give this a listen. The record quality I put down as fair, so I can probably get through this. But it's certainly not in great condition. It is a pretty cool looking artwork though, with I believe it's a violin. Looks like a banger record. Okay, now we're entering, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because there's a lot of them. Cheap Trick is probably one of my dad's favorite bands, if I had to guess. So he's a lot of Cheap Trick, so I'm just going to go through. This is in color. This is at Budokan. So I've listened to a decent amount of Cheap Trick, but I wouldn't call myself a super fan. Albums like Dream Police I've listened to, obviously. And I've seen them a couple times live. I want to say I've seen them 3 times. I think I saw them at Emo's in Austin, ACL in Austin, and then in San Antonio. So I've seen them a couple times. They're a fun band. They're very unique. They have their own style, especially visually. So all shook up. And these records are not in very playable condition. He listened to these a lot, so one-on-one. Okay. Next position, please. I like the back of this artwork. I wish I could remember the names of all of the band members. I probably could have at some point, but I'm blanking. So this right here, Standing on the Edge. The Doctor. And then finishing it off, this is Lap of Luxury. Is that correct? Yes, Lap of Luxury. I have one more Cheap Trick, and I'll go ahead and show it now. It's off, so I have some 7 inches and one 10-inch. So this is the 10-inch for Found All the Parts. So these are not in alphabetical order, but I'm here. I might as well show them. These are my 2 7 inches so far. I have a couple more that I'm getting at some point, but this is the Dram Spotify singles. I didn't particularly want this. I enjoy a good Dram song just as much as the next person. I think everybody did, especially for a period of time, but this was one of those, I need my order to be above X amount of money to save money. So I saved more money than this record is worth by getting it. So. And then Look at the Sky by Porter Robinson. I just found this at my local record store, and I like this song a lot. I have Nurture on back order or whatever, as well as his new single. Chief Keef, Finally Rich. So this is a cool 2 LP. I would show these records off. You can find the Vinyl Me Please pressing, like images of it online, so I'm not going to open it up. This is not a gatefold. which is a little sad for how much I paid for this. But this is like a classic trap album. So, you know, everybody loves Sosa, Laughing to the Bank. You know, this is a good record, and it sounds good too. It sounds pretty damn good. But it was very expensive. Super Monster by Claude. Claude was the opening act when I went to go see Phoebe Bridgers, whose vinyl records I don't have any of because the pressings that look nice are expensive, so I've just held off. And I'm sure at some point there will be a repressing of Punisher that looks as cool as some of the expensive ones that you can't get anymore. But I really liked this opening act. I listened to them a lot, sort of leading up to the concert. There's some good songs on this album. It's very like sad pop, like, you know, I'm sad, life is hard, but it's very good, and I like it a lot. Ooh, the Commodores Nightlife. So I think a lot of people probably know the Commodores for one reason or another, but it's probably for their like later 70s stuff. This is the only one my dad had. This is like I want to say mid 80s? Yeah, 84, 85. So this record is fun, and I love the artwork here and everything. So this is just a groovy sort of R&B 80s album. It just steeps 80s swag. I love this thing. It's the only Commodores record my dad had, but I'm glad he had it. Dennis DeYoung. So he has two Dennis DeYoung. This is Desert Moon. I've not listened to a lot of Dennis DeYoung, so he's one of those sort of 80s artists as well, and I've just never really given him much listen. So let's see. So yeah, electronic pop rock. So pop rock, 80s rock. Something I should probably give it a try at some point. I think these records were in decent condition. Yeah, I gave it a good. So these are listenable, so I'll have to give them a listen at some point. So this is Dennis DeYoung, Back to the World. So two from my dad's collection that I'm not super familiar with. I'll have to give them a shot. Another Fint Plates record. This is One by Direct. Fint Plates has a very like organic sort of vinyl record scratch and noise sort of feel to it. A lot of their music. And most of this artist is a little cleaner, and so when they put this out, their sound definitely sounded more Fint Platesy, which I really like. So this is a good record. Again, one of those cheaper British imports that I got. Very happy with it. Good music if you like the sort of burial-esque future garage, relaxing electronic music with driving sort of swung percussion. Listen to any of the Fint Plate stuff. Don Henley. So I have not listened to this album. This is I Can't Stand Still. I want to give this a listen. His Don Henley is in decent shape. So the sleeve especially is a little warped, but this is his first Don Henley. I haven't listened to it yet, but this is the second. This is Building the Perfect Beast. This is a record that I found independent of my dad, actually, but I really like it. I think like Boys of Summer is like, oh, that's an 80s rock tune right there. And so I have listened to this one. On the record player, and it sounds remarkably clean. There's some pops. There's a little bit of scratching on it, but that's a good record. Duster. I have a lot of Duster in this collection. Not all of it is in one place. Valium Aglian is in there as well, so that's near the back. I have the Capsule Losing Contact in there. I have their new album on pre-order and everything, but this is Stratosphere. This is probably their most popular record. It is their most popular record. This is the Shadow Shaded. I'm really stupid. I bought this off of a scalper because I was getting really into this, and it was out of print. I was getting really into Duster, and this was out of print. And I was like, damn it, that is such a cool looking color. It's matched really well with the color of the record, in my opinion. I just love the coloring on these numero group pressings. So I was like, oh, I need to get that. I paid like $50 off for this copy on eBay, and like a month later it reprinted, and I was pretty sad about that. But I'm very happy I have that record. Love Duster. More Duster. This is a really good record. I think it's underrated by the band itself even. This is Contemporary Movement. This is the Diamond Dust pressing, split color splattered vinyl. It says Diamond Dust on their site when I bought it, but this is one that I almost bought from a scalper, but they did reprint it, thankfully, repress it. I love the design on this. Again, these numero group pressings, they really match the aesthetic of the record perfectly. So this sort of just big blue splotch with the sort of white-black accents up at the top. Love it. This is such a good record. Me and the Birds, On Recovery, like just so many good songs on here. So I highly recommend Duster to anybody who's feeling a little drony. I love softer, sadder music, and Duster stuff really does it for me. Duster, self-titled. This is the black Mud Guts pressing. Apparently Numero Group are going to be pressing this record sometime like a year or so from now. So I'll pick that up too. I got this at my record store used, and it was pretty lightly used, so I went ahead and picked it up. There are some pressings of this that are very expensive on pastel pink and blue vinyl. Ooh man, it's always tempting to grab one of those. They were some of the earlier Mud Guts pressings, like limited runs. This is a good record. Stratosphere and Contemporary Movement came out in 98 and 2000 respectively, and the band really saw a resurgence around this time, 2019, where sort of a new generation found their music and found them exciting, and so they just sort of coincidentally came back and did another record. And then they've released another one a few months back in 2022 called Together. I'm on back order for that one, or on pre-order for that one, I guess. But very good record. Also, the artwork on this record has a really cool story behind it. So if you're interested, look into Mud Guts, look into Sal, the creator of this artwork for the album. It's a really touching story. He sadly passed away relatively recently, so sad story. But I'm glad his artwork sort of found a place, found a home, found the attention it deserves. The Eagles. This is a sort of greatest hits collection. My dad has a couple Eagles records. They're all in pretty bad condition, and despite the Eagles being a relatively popular band at the time, I never really got into them. Sort of late 70s band. So I would like to give these a listen. This sleeve is in really good condition, but if I remember correctly, the record is a little tough, rough around the edges. So do need to try and run this. I think this is the best condition of any of them in his collection. So next is Hotel California by the Eagles. Obviously, everybody's heard at least one song off this record. The sleeve is not in great condition. The record's in even worse condition, so not super playable, but still a cool record to have. And then same with the long run. This is one of those. The back of this record particularly could be used in one of those PNG vinyl imprint templates you find online when people try to make their digital artwork look a little more classical. Oh yeah, and then finally Eagles Live. So this is a gatefold. Its sleeve is in pretty rough condition, as are the records inside, but this is a cool package. I love live records, and so does my dad. So I definitely got that from him, and this is definitely a cool package. Wish it was a little more listenable, but it is what it is. Earl Sweatshirt, Unwrapped songs. Love Earl Sweatshirt. Particularly love the sort of the post I Don't Do Shit period where he started releasing, or either releasing or leaking songs, that needed sample clearance or whatnot. Like during that period, I got really into him. Solace, stuff like that, Wind in My Sails. And so when this record came out, it had been so long since he released something, and it was a real breath of fresh air. And this is a bars record right here. He says it on the back. So this is a good record. I brought this to his live show in Austin, hoping I could get it signed, and I did not. But yeah. This is Feet of Clay. This is the EP he put out shortly after Some Rap Songs. And this is another one where I need to repackage the record. Give me a moment. So it came with this insert, Feet of Clay, really neat. This is a good little EP of some songs, some that I've really been hoping he would release from his live sets. Songs like Tis Tis Cookies. There's some that didn't make it on here that I wish it did, but the coloring on this one is really cool. It's this sort of tobacco-y color with some of the artwork from the deluxe edition on the back. It's a little hard to see. It says Earl Sweatshirt Feet of Clay on there. Really cool. Glad there is the logo in the center also looks a little strange, but it's definitely a good one to have. I'm glad I went ahead and picked this up. Sadly, this is the last of my Earl. I'd like to get some other Earl in here. I'm not crazy about picking up the older stuff, but I never got sick, for instance, so At some point I want to get my hands on that. Alright, on to the Edens. Eden, Irish singer, songwriter, producer. This was the first project he released for payment. All of his stuff up to this point was free. He had swapped aliases before this, and this was sort of the first actual record he sold. So it's an EP with 4 songs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and then some songs from his previous alias that he decided to sort of carry forward. So this is a cool pressing. It's just a clear vinyl. But I'm glad I got this. I think this might have been the first vinyl record I ever purchased for myself. I also, it's worth noting that, let me grab this real quick. I got that record and the next record of his signed, so you could order signed copies if you were like the first X number or whatever. So I got this one signed, this one, which I'll go over in a second, signed, and the way that they sort of did it, unlike the Amber Run one I got, was they just included a second sleeve that was signed. So at some point I'd like to put those on display, the signed ones, because they could be up in like a frame or something, or a display case. I still have the copy that's playable there to listen to. This is Vertigo. This is his first full-length album. I love this album. It is not mastered particularly well for vinyl, but it's still a really good record, and I really like to listen to it. This is another one that was on clear. I think he did like different color options, but I went with clear again. There's a cool inscription on the back of the 4th LP, which I'm sure you can find pictures of online and read. His little like heartfelt message on there, very sweet. But yeah, Eden's one of my favorite artists. I have all of his vinyl pressing, or all of his vinyl albums on vinyl, I should say. He did a couple different colors and everything. He did a deluxe edition of this, which the record was like grayscaled and stuff. I just decided I would rather get the signed traditional record, and I think I'm happy with that decision years later. No Future. So this is one of those where he decided to go with the make sure I don't drop anything out of the record, the sort of unfurl look, which I didn't understand for the longest time. I was very confused as to why the album artwork was sideways, because it's definitely flipped for the digital release. This one came with a CD, if I remember correctly. I think that's at my parents' place, hidden in a box somewhere. But I think there was like a big shipping delay on these, so did not get to me in time. This is the only one I don't have signed. So it's just standard black vinyl, but this is a cool record. This is his second record. I don't think this caught as much commercial success as his other ones, but I really enjoy this record. I think it's underplayed, underappreciated, so No Future, if you're ever looking for something to listen to, give it a shot. I've heard he can be divisive for whatever reason, but he's popular with the kids, ELO, Electric Lights Orchestra. There's a greatest hits record in here. There is Time. There is Secret Messages. And finally, there is Balance of Power. So my dad's a pretty big Electric Lights Orchestra fan, so he has a couple other records. They're all in pretty listenable condition, so I gave the greatest hits a listen. And I've listened to Electric Lights Orchestra, although I'm not a massive fan, so I'd love to give the others a listen. They're in decent condition, all things considered, and that is the whole first side of my shelf, so I'm going to rack everything back up, and then I'll do more later. So thanks for watching.